Hey book besties, welcome back to another bookish video. Today I thought it would be fun if I just sat down and talked about my 5-star book predictions. So these are books that I obviously haven't read yet, that are on my physical TBR, that I think I'm gonna rate 5 out of 5 stars, that have the potential to become my new favorite books. I hope by doing this video I'm not like jinxing myself, because it would be so awkward if I ended up like rating some of these 1 stars. I feel like for me, I'm kind of picky with my 5 stars. I don't really give out too many 5 stars to every single book that I read. Most of my book ratings are like 4 or 4.5 stars if they're close to a 5-star read, but a book has to be absolute perfection for me to rate it 5 stars. So I have actually got a decent pile here. So let's talk about the books that I haven't read yet, but I think are going to be 5 stars. Let me know if you've read any of these books, what your ratings and your thoughts were, spoiler free of course, and let's just jump right into it. Okay, so the first 2 books that I have to talk about are part of the Twisted series by Huang. So I have Twisted Hate and Twisted Lies. These are the special edition covers. They are so pretty, but I've already read Twisted Love and Twisted Games, which are the first 2 books in the series. I actually haven't rated either of those 2 5 stars, but I don't know why, but I just have a feeling that these 2 have the potential to be 5 stars, especially Twisted Hate. So this is book 3 and this is book 4. So if you haven't heard of the Twisted series before, it's basically a romance interconnected series. We follow a group of 4 girls who are best friends, and each book is following a different girl's love story, and all of the men have like some kind of morally grey background, I guess you could say. And Twisted Hate is following Jules, who is actually my favorite girl in the friendship group. So that is one reason why I think this book is going to be 5 stars, but also this is enemies to lovers and enemies with benefits to lovers. So I'm thinking it's going to be like so much tension filled, angst, good spice. Like, oh my god, I think it's gonna be so phenomenal. I've heard a lot of people say that this is one of the only contemporary romances that does enemies to lovers really, really well, because I feel like with a lot of contemporary romance books, the enemies to lovers just feels a lot like miscommunication or just a misjudgment, literally like the stupidest reason for them to hate each other. But apparently this one is like full on hate. So I'm excited for that, because you never really get that much in a contemporary romance. So I really think I'm gonna enjoy this one. Plus, like I said, Jules is my favorite girl. I relate so much to her. She's so funny. And book 4 in the Twisted series is Twisted Lies. This one is Stella and Christian's story, and this one has the fake dating trope in it. I honestly can't really tell you why I think this one is also gonna be 5 stars. I think because this is the final book and I've heard nothing but good things about this book. This one is a lot of people's favorite book out of the series, and also I've heard that this one just wraps up the story really well. Like, it has a really good epilogue that just like wraps up everyone's relationships really well. So I think that's gonna be good. Plus I do enjoy the fake dating trope, and I do really like Stella because she is actually a fashion influencer, so I'm really excited to see more about that. But if I had to really pick, I think this one is for sure gonna be 5 stars, because it's got tropes that I love, and it's gonna be like so much angst and tension filled, and it's got my favorite girl in here. So I have high hopes for this one. The next book I think I'm gonna rate 5 stars is One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid. First of all, it's TJR. I feel like she can just do no wrong in my books, and I feel like One True Love specifically is going to be 5 stars, because based on how the synopsis is playing out, it just sounds like something that I would be really interested in, because it's like more of an emotional tug, and I love that type of romance in books. Basically, this is got a love triangle, and I know for me love triangles is always a hit or miss. I'm not really a huge fan, but this book actually makes a love triangle trope sound super interesting. So we follow this girl named Emma who marries her high school sweetheart. They are completely and utterly in love, but then her husband goes missing. He goes like on this helicopter, and they think the helicopter's crashed and he's dead. So Emma is like really grieving, and she struggles to move on, and then one day she finally moves on and she meets this new guy, and I think they get married or they're like engaged, and then one day she gets a phone call and turns out her husband is actually alive, and it's like years later and he's coming back, and now she's kind of stuck between, do I go back to my husband that I spent so long trying to grieve and move on from, or do I stay with my current love that I'm engaged to? I have no idea which way I would be swinging for either, but I'm really intrigued. It just sounds like such an interesting concept. Plus this book is being turned into a movie, so I really want to read this book before the movie comes out, and I'm so excited because I love the way Taylor Jenkins Reid writes her books. Like the way she writes is absolutely beautiful, and I've enjoyed every book that I've read from her so far, but I think this one specifically is going to be my absolute favorite. Then I have Five Survive by Holly Jackson. Holly Jackson is also another author that can do no wrong. I'm obsessed with the Good Girl's Guide to Murder trilogy that she wrote. That entire series was 5 stars. I flew through it and I'm obsessed with it. I still think about it to this day, even though I read this one last year. But I specifically think Five Survive is also going to be another 5-star because the concept just sounds so interesting, and also the book is like spanned out in 8 hours. So we basically follow this group of friends. They go on this road trip in an RV, but then the RV breaks down in the middle of nowhere, but there's this no accident. Someone's actually out there and someone wants one of them dead. So with 8 hours until dawn, the 6 friends must escape or work out which one of them is the target. Buried secrets will be forced to light and not everyone will survive the night. Synopsis itself is giving me 5 stars energy, and yeah, like I said, I am definitely planning on, when I actually do end up reading this one, which I'm kind of wanting to save for October because spooky season, I want to actually read this within the time frames. Like I don't know if you can see, but like they've actually got timestamps on there, so I want to actually do maybe like an overnight reading challenge reading this book within the time frame, because I think that would be fun. Like that was definitely going to alleviate the experience reading this book. Then I have Terms and Conditions by Lauren Asher, which is the second book in the Dreamland Billionaires series. I read the fine print last month and that was an absolute 5-star for me. I loved the writing, I loved the chemistry between the 2 characters, and I just really enjoyed the book overall, and that makes me think that I'm gonna rate Terms and Conditions also 5 stars because this also has the Grumpy Sunshine romance, and it's set in the same world. We're just following the other brother. So the first book was following Rowan and Zara, this one is following Declan and Iris, and it's got the Marriage of Convenience and Grumpy Sunshine trope. Basically, if you haven't heard of the Dreamland Billionaire series, we follow 3 brothers. Their grandfather passed away, and in order to receive their inheritance, each brother has a task that they need to fulfill. Declan's task specifically requires him to actually get married and have a kid, which is like so wild, and he is like not really a relationship dating person. He's very work oriented, plus he's very grumpy. Like he's super grumpy. Iris is actually Declan's assistant, but she's going to be like, I guess, the fake wife. Well, not really fake wife because they're actually going to have to get married and have a kid. Then I have another Grumpy Sunshine 5-star book prediction because I love Grumpy Sunshine, it's my favorite trope, and that is Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. I initially was like, I don't know if I'm gonna rate this one 5 stars or not, but then I read my first Lucy Score book last month and I rated it 5 stars and I was obsessed, and this one specifically is Grumpy Sunshine and Small Town, so I think I'm gonna rate this one 5 stars. And also the booktubers that I have heard talk about this book have rated it 5 stars or have been raving about it, so that also gives me high hopes for this book. I feel like everyone's already read this book before and I'm probably like the last person to pick this one up, but basically this follows the story of Knox and Naomi. Knox is like this bad boy, grumpy type of guy who lives in this small town, and we follow Naomi, who is the sunshine, and she actually has like this evil twin sister which is so like random but sounds so interesting. And the evil twin sister is like hated in this small town, and Naomi actually ends up going to this small town because she gets tricked by her evil twin sister, and now she's stuck in this small town, and because they're identical twins, everyone thinks that Naomi is actually her twin sister, which I think that sounds so interesting. And now she's stuck looking after her sister's niece because her sister just like leaves the small town and leaves his niece behind. So Naomi's kind of stuck in this small town looking after her niece and also trying to prove herself to this small town that absolutely hates her twin sister, that she's nothing like her sister. Then I've got A Risk Gone Forever by N.S. Perkins. Honestly, I think the reason why I think that this is going to be 5 stars is because this book kind of reminded me of Me Before You, but hopefully with a happier ending. And I loved Me Before You, like the book and the movie. I rated that one 5 stars, obsessed with it, and this book kind of gives me the same vibe as that. When Matthias imagined a new caretaker for his mother with ALS, the last thing he had in mind was a gorgeous 20-something who didn't look like she had a day of experience in the field. However, his mother has always been stubborn, and despite his objections, she's insistent. It's Adelaide Sampson she wants him to hire. After losing her job, Adelaide needs a new gig to continue supporting her family, even if that means working her overprotective and rude Matthias. Once she earns his trust, though, she gets to see a whole other side of him, a funny, sweet and sensitive side, a side she might start to like. Feelings take hold, but soon Adelaide must choose between helping Helen with a secret task or being honest with Matthias. Caught between the woman who feels like a second mother and the man she's falling for, Adelaide must navigate the murky waters of a job that has started to feel like home. It's obviously quite different to Me Before You, but it's got like a similar vibe to Me Before You, if that makes sense. I'm sure if you guys have watched the movie or read the book of Me Before You, the synopsis might sound a little bit kind of like there's similarities between the two. Obviously they're both different, but yeah, it kind of gives me the same vibes. So that's why I feel like I think I'm gonna really love this and rate it 5 stars. Then we've got Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. I definitely think this is gonna be 5 stars. It's got enemies to lovers, grumpy sunshine, and it's a sports romance. We follow Anastasia, who is a figure skater, and Nate, who is a hockey player. And you guys know how I feel about a good hockey romance. It just hits so good, and I also love figure skating. Mix them two together, I think I'm gonna really like it. Also, the Grumpy Sunshine is reverse Grumpy Sunshine because the guy is like major cinnamon roll vibes and the girl is like more grumpy, and I really love that. Then I have The Dragon Promise by Elizabeth Lim. This is the sequel to 6 Crimson Cranes. I loved 6 Crimson Cranes. That was one of my favorite books of 2022 when I read it last year, and I feel like, I don't know why, but I just feel like the second book has 5-star potential, especially the way 6 Crimson Cranes ended off. I am so excited to go back into this world. This book picks up off of where 6 Crimson Cranes ends. So in 6 Crimson Cranes, we follow this princess named Shiori. She ends up getting cursed by her stepmother, and all 6 of her brothers get turned into cranes, and she is unrecognizable to anyone. So no one actually realizes that she is the princess, and now she's trying to turn her 6 brothers back into humans. Part of her curse, if she speaks, one of her brothers will die. I can't remember too much about 6 Crimson Cranes, but I just remember I really enjoyed it because it gave off like Disney meets Swan Lake vibes, and I loved that combination. And then the last book I have on my 5-star book prediction list is Wild at Heart by K.A. Tucker. This is the sequel to The Simple Wild, which is my all-time favorite romance book. I love that book so much. I love the couple Calla and Jonah, and their trope is grumpy sunshine, and they initially started off as enemies. So the first book was enemies to lovers, and the end of The Simple Wild basically kind of goes into long distance because Calla goes back to Canada and Jonah is still in Alaska. So they kind of ended off in long distance, and Wild at Heart kind of picks up off of where The Simple Wild ends, I think. So I'm really excited to just go back to this world, go back to this small town, and go back to Calla and Jonah because I really love them as a couple. And I am just obsessed with K.A. Tucker's writing as well. Like, her writing is very atmospheric. So I think I'm gonna rate this one 5 stars as well because The Simple Wild was obviously my favorite book, one of my favorite book couples. So I have a feeling Wild at Heart will also get 5 stars from me. Those are some of the books that I think I'm gonna be rating 5 stars. I think it would be such a fun video idea if I actually end up doing a reading vlog on some of these books and seeing if they end up being 5 stars, because I think that would be really interesting. But hopefully you guys enjoyed watching this video, hearing about some of the books that are on my radar that I think are going to be new favorites of mine. Stay tuned obviously for future reading vlogs and wrap-ups and stuff to see what my thoughts are on these books, and of course let me know if you've read any of these as well. But if you enjoyed watching, please give this video a huge thumbs up and subscribe to my channel down below because I post new videos every single week, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye!